Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. This is Boris Tizengausen with you. June 15th. Here are the main news stories at this moment. Another massive attack on Ukraine. More than 70 missiles and 611 attack drones. The main target today was Kyiv. More than 30 ballistic missiles were launched at Kyiv overnight. It was a very loud night. Unfortunately, there is destruction, there are casualties, and there are wounded. My condolences to those who lost loved ones today, and I wish a speedy recovery to those who were injured. Images of the Assumption Cathedral in the Kyiv-Petersburg Lavra burning have already spread around the world. One of the oldest Orthodox shrines in the world, a spiritual symbol of Ukraine and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And today there was a large-scale fire at the Dovzhenko film studio. The Russian Ministry of Defense once again claimed something about strikes on drone assembly sites and an airfield. But if you keep striking drone assembly sites, why are more and more of them flying into Russia? Are they assembling them in the Kyiv-Pechersk Lavra or something? Today I saw various theories that this is revenge for the panorama in Sevastopol and also revenge for something else, like the recent expulsion of the Russian Orthodox Church from the Far Caves. There can be no revenge against Ukraine here, no revenge against Ukraine for anything, because the aggressor is Putin and the Russian Federation. A person who is being attacked is not taking revenge, he is defending himself, he is fighting for his life. And Ukraine is defending itself. We are not taking revenge on anyone, we are fighting for survival while they simply want to kill us. It's all much simpler and more straightforward than that. A maniac will keep killing until he is caught or made to pay for it, or until the one they attack turns out to be so much stronger that he simply crushes him. They strike at us because they want us to simply cease to exist physically, for us to surrender. They do not want to lose this war. They strike at us because they have missiles. They have the means to strike. This is the very essence of their terrorism. As strange and paradoxical as it may sound, they strike at us because they are afraid to lose this war. And they strike at us because Ukraine has shamed Putin and his so-called great second army of the world before the entire world. They strike at us because they see that they have already lost, out of anger, out of shame, and with ferocity. This is the most they can do, carry out terrorist attacks, hoping that it will break us. As a result, not only Kiev was attacked. As a result of the night attack in Dnipro, the house of organ and chamber music was also damaged. This was reported by the head of the Dnipropetrovsk regional administration. Take a look at this as well. Is this a military target? They strike Kharkiv, they strike Odessa, they strike other cities of Ukraine. Yesterday's hit on the art museum in Kharkiv, on the art museum. And here in Kharkiv, they used their most despicable tactics. As a result of a repeated strike, they killed rescuers. They killed 5 people. In other words, they struck the site, waited for the rescuers to arrive, and then deliberately struck a second time, specifically aiming to hit the rescuers. I think that they just believe that with these atrocities, these strikes on sacred sites, on cultural heritage, on our children, they think they can make Ukraine and Ukrainians falter. By the way, this is precisely that fatal mistake and Putin's main miscalculation. The first time he miscalculated was when he thought Ukraine would surrender after the Russian invasion. He thought Ukrainians would see Russian tanks and immediately give up. Well, now he still doesn't understand who Ukrainians are. He is trying to break us with these strikes. Ukraine is only becoming stronger. Ukraine responds systematically. Ukraine responds without hysteria. I think Madyar, the commander of the drone systems forces, put it very accurately today when he formulated the answer to what will happen after this. Let's quote him. The Ukrainian response is not a flash of anger. It's a conveyor belt of retribution that has been set in motion. Live in fear, worms every minute across the entire territory of your vast swamps. A conveyor belt of retribution, not a flash of anger, but a systematic conveyor belt. And also, perhaps by striking at Ukrainian shrines, at our culture, they are trying to throw us off balance so that Ukraine, so to speak, would gather all its drones and launch them all in retaliation at the Moscow Kremlin. Foolish, foolish ghouls. We don't need your Kremlin at all. Ukraine has found the weak spots of the ghoul state. Oil refineries and Crimea. That's where the strikes will be so methodical and so painful that you'll be shocked by this persistence. A country that has fiercely resisted for 5 years and is turning the tide of military events is capable of even more than this. And your Kremlin, which we don't care about at all, you'll end up burning it down yourselves along with Putin and his numerous replicas. Study your own history carefully. You've done this more than once before. Well, friends, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it right now. It's important for the channel's growth. We're fighting against Putin's propaganda, and it's much more effective to do it together. So make sure to subscribe. I recently came across a video with Putin. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I understand that you don't want to see that disgusting face, but it's very short and very special. Of course, as always, he's mumbling and stammering, but at some point it feels like he has a moment of revelation, as if he saw the future and realized he's done for. It's as if he glimpsed his own death in the future and just froze. Watch this video.
И если вы говорите сейчас про конфликт на Украине, то нас интересует реальная ситуация на этом направлении. Как она выглядит, эта ситуация? Она выглядит следующим образом.
An awkwardly long, almost theatrical pause. Really, it seems like he realized where all this is heading. Meanwhile, in St. Petersburg, Putin's main naval parade has been cancelled. Well, who would have doubted it? According to sources from one of the Russian publications, there is no official decree regarding the parade. There are no orders from above to prepare either. The fleets aren't planning any trips to St. Petersburg either, so that's it. No, there won't be a parade, you understand, the source told the publication. I think that's the most honest explanation at this moment. You understand. Yes, everyone understands everything themselves. By the way, this is yet another reason why Putin is striking our cities. Ukraine is not giving up, and it's absolutely clear that Russia can no longer win this war. All the underground ghoul can do now is try to crawl out of this war with at least something that can be molded into some semblance of victory. And Ukraine is not just refusing to surrender, but is also increasing the pace of strikes against Russia. Fuel is disappearing, and Russians are dissatisfied. And these strikes are the only thing Putin has left. Look, they show it to Russians on their TV, after all. We're still striking Kiev, striking Kharkiv, Odessa, Dnipro, Kherson. We can still hit them. But the response keeps coming, and it's serious. Parades are essentially the pillars of an authoritarian regime. So, the fear of holding parades is a crack running right through the entire system. Putin's system was built on 3 visual pillars: victories at the front, economic stability, and the ritual display of military might. In other words, those very parades. And everyone still remembers the parade on May 9th, in my opinion, the most disgraceful parade in the entire history of Putin's rule. Moscow was closed off, everyone was looking up at the sky, the air show was cancelled, and there were no guests. Basically, just a pathetic handful of people showed up, led by Lukashenko. All in all, it was, a kind of semi-bunker holiday. Now, add the context of the cancellation of the Navy Day parade in St. Petersburg. Ukrainian drones struck Kronstadt at the beginning of this month. By the way, the parade in Kronstadt was cancelled as well. They destroyed the corvette Boyki. In other words, the ships that were supposed to sail proudly in front of Putin. That's it, these ships are burning from Ukrainian drone strikes. So the parade would have turned not into a show of strength, but obviously into conveniently grouped targets and a complete disgrace. That's why Putin had to choose between 2 disasters: to hold the parade and risk it being hit, which is exactly what would have happened, or to admit his fear and cancel the parade. So he chose the second option. And of course, both options destroy the myth that everything is under control. Today, after the all clear, after the alarm, which was around 5:20 in the morning, something like that, I was watching people coming back home with their children, young couples, elderly people, holding hands with backpacks, with carriers, with pets. Sleep deprived, serious, but, unbroken and very strong, children who are mature beyond their years with their favorite toys. The children understand everything everyone understands. That's how all of Ukraine, after yet another shelling, dusts itself off, rolls up its sleeves, and keeps systematically pushing back against the pseudo-empire. You can already feel it. There's already an understanding that we need to strike, and finish them off. There really is that feeling. And our air defense forces today have truly done an outstanding job. They shot down 50 out of 70 missiles, and out of 611 drones, they brought down 582. That's a good result. They shot down 15 out of 34 ballistic missiles and all 30 KH-101 and Iskander-K cruise missiles. Overall, given what we have to shoot them down with, that's a very good result. Honor and praise to our air defense forces. Well, today we have a themed gathering. In every episode, we organize a fundraiser for the defense forces of Ukraine. Today, we are continuing to raise funds for mobile command posts for our air defense forces, for those who hunt Russian Shaheds and Russian missiles, for several air defense units, and the 152nd Jaeger Brigade. The soldiers have recorded a video message for you. Please take a look.
152 бригада і підрозділ повітряних сил України та канал Бориса Тізенгаузена починають збір на 2 командні пункти, щоб збивати шахеди над нашими містами і запускати дрони-перехоплювачі. Сума чимала, але тільки разом ми можемо дати ворогу по зубам.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Let's help our air defense fighters. The link to donate is in the description of this video. There are mono, private, and PayPal options for those who want to help from abroad. There's always a QR code in the corner as well if you're watching me on another channel. By supporting our air defense forces, you are directly saving someone's life. And together we are strengthening our skies and their defense. Let's help. Let's push a little harder. All right, we're almost halfway to our fundraising goal. And together with you, we've already closed it. Thank you so much, I say this in every episode, for helping, both from hundreds of our warriors and from myself personally. Thank you so much. I recently came across an interview with the former chief editor of Russia One, where he talked about how for 15 years they edited special news broadcasts just for Putin. He was talking about this completely seriously. That is, the news shown on TV was one thing, but the ones shown to Putin were different. So, since 2011, the Botox jellyfish has been receiving separate news broadcasts that never air on television, intended only for him. According to him, when he worked at the channel, the project had the codename The Main Viewer. Let me quote. It went like this. For example, at 8 p.m. on air, there was a regular Vesti broadcast would air, after which the production crew would stay behind. We had specific instructions on which news stories to keep in this broadcast, which to add, what to embellish, and what to remove, so that Putin would later be shown a perfect picture of a beautiful, real Russia. In other words, the president always looked good in the news. According to information from this former editor-in-chief named Skorobutov, Putin now receives even less truthful information. Everything is censored. Frontline reports began to be censored very strictly after April 2022, when the armed forces of Ukraine sank the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, the cruiser Moskva. So, in all seriousness, an alternative reality is being created for Putin. You know what I thought when I saw these kinds of revelations? Why all of a sudden, even now? Maybe isn't this an attempt to justify Putin in the future? That's the thought that came to me. Like, I didn't know. I was deceived, misled, disinformed. Yes, if I had known that people were dying in Ukraine, well, that's what they told me. They fed me the news and information. That's the thought that crossed my mind. Obviously, this won't save him, but it feels like they're starting to lay the groundwork. Already preparing for such a scenario, when it becomes obvious that the war is completely lost, although for many that's already the case now. Obviously, it will crawl out of its hole and say, I was deceived by those around me, I'll imprison them all, I'll imprison everyone, and we'll live like we used to. Yes, Russia is now in deep trouble, but you Russians won't really feel much of a difference, because it's been in deep trouble under Putin for 25 years. And here's something else I was talking about. Why does Ukraine systematically strike without paying attention to such absolutely vile acts, although every strike by the Russian Federation is vile? Russian farmers have faced a shortage of diesel fuel right before the harvest. Following the gasoline shortage, which has already affected 25 regions, farmers say there is no guarantee that there will be fuel for the harvest. Pilots, they have encountered a problem. There is no aviation kerosene for the planes. And here, in fact, is something else I was talking about. The bridge near Chongar and the bridge connecting Henichesk with the Arabat Spit have been damaged again. Last night, our drones were working on them. I don't know, maybe it was hippos or perhaps some other species. In any case, traffic is blocked. Since morning, the half-finished whiner and the Gaisaldo have been complaining. That's all. The bridges are blocked. Hide in the fields. I'm running away. In other words, every night they hit the bridges so that there isn't even a chance to try to repair them. And the fact that the military are already sending their families from Crimea deeper into Russia from the occupied territory of Ukraine without waiting for orders is already a confirmed fact. Moreover, they're trying to hide it, holding some kind of explanatory talks with them, but everyone there knows everything anyway. I was born in Sevastopol. You can't hide anything from anyone there. One sent his family saying, yes, they went to relatives in Gelendzhik, and everyone else is like, yes, 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 we also sent our whole family to Anapa, to Gelendzhik, and somewhere else. They're sending them away while the higher-ranking military officers are sending their families just in case, and they're sending their belongings along with their families too. I wonder what that could mean. So, this kind of creeping evacuation has begun. And here's yet another confirmation. In Samara, Nizhny Novgorod, Udmurtia, Kazan, Cheboksary, Ulyanovsk, and Kuzbas, restrictions have been imposed on fuel sales. Literally every day, the fuel crisis is spreading further and further across Russia. Every day, refineries break down, oil depots catch fire, and oil pumping stations explode. Ukraine will keep striking there until the entire oil refining industry in the Russian Federation is brought to a halt, until you are left without gasoline and diesel, and then we'll burn your oil too. And what will you do with the oil then if you can't refine it? It's not like China or India will just buy it just like that. Oh, you can't refine it? Of course, give us additional volumes. No one will buy it. You'll have to mothball the wells. Russians still don't understand what all this will lead to, but soon it will be explained to them, or rather shown to them clearly. Another piece of news, textbook Simply Classic. Russia may shut down the internet and restrict various forms of communication during the elections, the head of the Central Election Commission, a zombie Komsomol member, stated. Pamfilova. She called on Russians to be patient in order to save lives. So what kind of lives are these elderly ghouls trying to save? Well, enduring hardship is a Russian national pastime, in case anyone didn't know. They're very afraid, so much so that even under total control and repression, they're still worried that someone might take to the streets this fall when the elections are held. I think it's not even so much that someone will go out into the streets, but that they'll just blatantly write up some absolutely outrageous numbers, and maybe someone will start protesting. Then the underground stiletto will come stomping after us. Those 7-centimeter Louboutins for the chief executioner. The internet will snap off in Russia, and for a while everything will go dark. Russians will be walking around with their cards, everything will stop working. But Baldy, the mold, together with the other deranged KGB grandpas, they just live in constant fear and paranoia. The memories are still fresh of Prigozhin's march on Moscow when Putin and his team overachieved their quota, with their suitcases packed, I don't know, for 3 months ahead. For sure, they're terribly afraid, terrified, and that's not even the end of it. Ukraine still has so many surprises in store for you, you'll be stunned. As they say, not everyone will live to see it. Well, and you, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel, don't forget. And I ask you very much, let's help our air defense fighters. Our help is extremely necessary for them right now. The more mobile command posts there are, the more effectively they protect our skies, and protect us as well. The link to donate is in the description of this video. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.